Hello and welcome to your video training of adding multiple applicants to a tenancy. On this video we are going to assume that the tenancy has already been created and the first applicant already added to it. This is covered on our lettings workflows training video that you can find on our YouTube channel, but also runs every Thursday morning as well, part of our lettings training modules. So I'm going to find my tenancy that we created using our navigation history, and it's the tenancy there with the tenancy icon. So we've created the tenancy, and on the Tenants tab we have got the main applicant added in as the tenant. You can see that they have been added in as the main tenant because they are the only tenant. Down at the very bottom of the Tenants tab on the tenancy record, we're going to click Add an Applicant or Add a Tenant. This will give us the option to select the tenant. Now if we click on the plus icon, we get through to the Select an Applicant Quick Find page, where we're going to use the wildcard feature to search for applicants. Okay, we don't have the applicant in the system, so down at the very bottom, I'm going to click the plus icon. At this point, I would always search for the applicant just to make sure that you are not duplicating the applicant record within Expert Agent. So I'm going to click the plus icon here, which takes me through to the applicant wizard. Filling this in as you would a normal applicant record. Now at this point you can add as much or as little details as you wish, because you can always go back later on and open the applicant record and add their details in, what they're looking for, their match criteria, or you could do that even at the end of the tenancy as well. We are just going to do a quick postcode lookup though for this particular applicant and select the option from the drop down. I'm not going to add their requirements in or the status and notes or anything about their own house at this point. I am literally just going to press the save button. I don't want to send them the welcome email at this point either because we haven't configured their requirements, so I don't want to be spamming them with an empty email. So I'm just going to close this one down. That has added our applicant onto the tenancy. Now, at this point, what you can do is split the rent out. So let's say the rent on this property, or on this tenancy rather, is £600 a month. There are multiple tenants, there are 3 tenants. If you are collecting the rent from the 3 tenants individually, you would say that this tenant's rent amount was £200. The deposit amount, and a payment reference if you need it. Press the save button and you've added the second tenant onto the tenancy. Now what we may need to do at this point is to edit the first tenant's rent amount by clicking the edit button here and changing their rent amount to £200 as well. We've now got the option to change who the main tenant is, and we can also add a third tenant down at the bottom. Clicking on the plus icon one more time and searching for your applicant. Now this is an existing applicant in the system, so I'm not going to add them in. I'm just going to click on their name here and that will add them on to this page, and again we can change their rent amount if necessary. Their deposit amount and the payment reference. And then save. Obviously if they were splitting the deposit out, so let's say the deposit was more because there are 3 tenants, you can split the deposit out equally as well. If they are each paying their own deposit, so each paying 2 months rent at the beginning, you would add them in like that. Check who the main tenant is, and at the bottom make sure that the tenant names for correspondence reads correctly, because any correspondence you send to the tenants from the tenancy record will populate with that field. If of course your tenants are not splitting the rent out equally, so you are collecting the rent from the individual main tenant, you will need to make sure that the main tenant's rent is the full amount of the rent and the other tenants are 0. So it's a relatively simple process to add existing or add multiple tenants onto a tenancy, and at this point you would then just go through the process that is covered on the lettings workflows video. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video training. We do hope you found it beneficial.